Breaking news as we come on tonight, the potential mass shooting averted in Atlanta at the busiest airport in the world. Police saying he intended to harm as many people as he could. Body cam capturing the stunning arrest, this man taken down. Authorities recovering his assault rifle in his truck parked outside. How his own family may have helped stop the attack. Also breaking, the major outage paralyzing parts of the internet. Amazon's cloud service going down multiple times. Airlines, classrooms, banks, and major corporations all impacted. The manhunt in Paris after thieves broke into the Louvre, stealing priceless jewels before escaping on motorbikes. The new timeline tonight showing the criminals inside for only 4 minutes. The cargo plane skidding off the runway, killing 2, plus a lithium battery bursting into flames on board another flight, and the windshield shattering at 36,000 feet. What happened? No cruise charges. The new details about that 5-year-old girl, you remember, plummeted from a Disney cruise ship this summer. Her mother was taking pictures of her in front of an open porthole window, why prosecutors say she won't face charges. And a father's return, the Navy service member surprising his son while he was at school, their heartwarming reunion after 9 months apart. And the 6-month-old child allegedly left alone on a beach for nearly an hour, the charges her parents are now facing. Top story starts right now. Good evening. We're coming on the air tonight with that breaking news out of Atlanta, a possible mass shooting foiled at the busiest airport in the world. New body cam video showing police taking down this man who they say had threatened to shoot up the airport and wanted to harm, quote, as many people as he could. Officials also finding an AR-15 assault rifle in a truck parked outside. They say 27 rounds of ammunition were also recovered. Surveillance images capturing that man walking through the airport. You see him here in that blue shirt. This is minutes before his arrest. Officials say 49-year-old Billy Joe Cagle has both a prior criminal record and what they call mental challenges. Police say it was his own family that alerted them of what he was planning to do. Authorities canvassed the area after they got the call, finding Cagle less than 15 minutes later at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. They say dozens of lives may have been saved. Our Aaron Gilchrist is on the ground in Atlanta tonight. He leads us off.
How are you?
Good. This body cam video shows the moment police say a potential tragedy was averted.
Put your hands behind your back.
Atlanta police officers detaining 49-year-old Billy Joe Cagle, who officials say threatened to shoot up the busiest airport in the world.
This individual did have a semi-automatic weapon, and this individual was mentally challenged. And when you have those combinations together, it can turn out to be deadly.
Surveillance video shows Cagle parking his pickup truck right outside Hartsfield-Jackson Airport's South Terminal shortly before 9:30 this morning. Once inside, he's seen walking right up to a TSA checkpoint.
He seemed to be very interested in the TSA check-in area, which you can see was heavily crowded with travelers.
Authorities say they were tipped off about what Cagle was up to from his own family members.
Cartersville Police Department was alerted by the family of Mr. Cagle that he was streaming on social media, that he was headed to the airport, in their words, to shoot it up.
After receiving that call from Cagle's family, officers in Atlanta canvassed the area. Less than 5 minutes later, police had the 6'3", 320-pound suspect in custody. Authorities believe Cagle was headed back to his truck to get an assault rifle, which had 27 rounds of ammunition. He was unarmed when he was taken into custody. Tonight, authorities grateful to the officers who spotted Cagle and those who said something.
27 or more lives could have been lost today.
All right, with that, Aaron Gilchrist joins us tonight live from Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Aaron, let's go back to the family. Do we know who they called and how quickly that info was relayed?
Well, Tom, we understand from investigators that the family reached out to police in Cartersville, Georgia. That's about 50 miles from where we are here at the airport. That's where Cagle lives. Our understanding is the information they gave to police, along with a photo of Cagle, was almost immediately transmitted to the Atlanta Police Department. Within minutes, really, there were officers on the ground here looking for him inside the airport. They were able to find him and, as you saw, take him into custody there. We know at this point that he's charged with 4 charges, the perhaps most serious being terroristic threats and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Police were asked what felony convictions this suspect had. They weren't able to give great detail about that at this point. They were also asked whether they had a motive in mind as to why he came here with the intention of shooting up as many people as possible inside the airport. Police said that was still a part of the investigation. They don't have a motive at this point, Tom, but the investigation is ongoing. More than 250,000 people travel through this airport every single day, Tom. And this could have been an incredible tragedy had he been able to pull off what he allegedly was planning to do.
Yeah,
Tom?
good police work there. All right, Aaron Gilchrist for us. Aaron, we thank you. Now to our other breaking headline, that massive global outage that paralyzed millions, unable to use popular apps and websites. It hit everything from airlines to banks. Some businesses had to resort to pen and paper. NBC's Brian Chung has the latest.
From United Airlines to Apple to Slack, a long list of companies all going dark for periods of time today amid a massive worldwide outage.
Canva is down. Adobe Express is also experiencing some problems.
A global debacle traced back to one company, Amazon. Not the company's e-commerce business, but its cloud services, responsible for hosting the data of some of the largest companies in the world. From Snapchat,
guys, what is going on with Snapchat?
To Venmo.
Money is in there, but Venmo is down.
Students left in the dark as classroom software went down. Small businesses like the True Grit Cafe in Colorado having to take it back to pen and paper to take orders.
We're taking handwritten credit card information down and hope that we don't transpose the numbers that way.
Worry that this is going to impact at least your bottom line for sales today?
Absolutely.
It even impacted Amazon's own e-commerce site.
When we put all of our eggs in a few very large baskets, we have the potential for something like today's outage to happen.
The trouble began overnight, with Amazon acknowledging increased error rates. By early morning, the company claimed that the issue had been fully mitigated. But by midday, Amazon said that customers still continue to experience increased error rates. Experts say it doesn't look like a hack.
When the source is quickly and easily discovered, it usually points to an accident or a misconfiguration rather than some type of attack.
Brian Chung joins us live on Top Story right now. Brian, I know you have a major update.
Yeah, well, Amazon's saying that this has been resolved. They acknowledge that as they were trying to fix the issue earlier this morning, there was another problem, but they do say that things should be coming back fully online now. Again, this was projected. They were saying a few hours ago that they were expecting a full recovery this evening.
Yeah, you know, Amazon, people think of it obviously as the everything store where you shop, but they sort of stumbled upon this AWS business as they were building out Amazon. How big of a business is it?
Yeah, as you point out, most people are familiar with those packages that arrive at your doorstep, but AWS is basically their biggest profit maker these days. In fact, in just the last quarter, they made $10 billion in profits off of this service, again, selling to other companies this service of web hosting as well as IT services. For all the net sales that they had international and in North America for their e-commerce, it was only about $9 billion. So they make more money off of AWS.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Brian, so great to have you here. We thank you.
Yep.
Now to the all-out manhunt after that daring museum heist in France. Thieves breaking into the world-famous Louvre and getting away with priceless jewels in broad daylight. Molly Hunter's in Paris with new details how they pulled it off.
A shocking daytime heist that stunned the world, and tonight, the urgent manhunt now underway for the thieves still on the run. Sunday morning, minutes after the Louvre Museum opened to the public, authorities say a truck mounted with an extendable ladder drove up to the south side of the museum.
The car drove right up here to the side of the Apollo Gallery. That ladder went straight up to the balcony. You can see it right there. The window is boarded up. They used grinders to break that window. The alarms were sounding, and they headed for the Apollo Gallery.
At 9:34 a.m., two thieves entered the Apollo Gallery, inside for just 4 minutes, according to the prosecutor's office. In this video, widely published in French media, you can see one of them wearing a high-vis vest. They snatched 9 priceless items in all, dropping a diamond-encrusted crown on the way out.
The thieves came down the same ladder. There were motorbikes waiting, and they made their getaway through Paris traffic.
2 members of the team waiting on motorbikes, and by 9:38 a.m., they were gone. Experts say it's now a race against the clock before the gemstones are removed or cut up and sold. Outside the most visited museum in the world today, disappointment.
To our disappointment, it was closed because of a break-in. This is like a movie scene.
Honestly, I'm obsessed with this heist.
French media report a leaked audit of security found that the Louvre has routinely tightened the security budget. And tonight, French authorities are beefing up security at cultural sites across the country.
Across France tonight, this is seen as a massive security failure, and one of the things investigators are looking at is whether the alarm system worked correctly. Meanwhile, no word yet on when the museum will reopen. Tom?
Okay, Molly, we thank you for that. To help us break down exactly how this heist could have happened, I'm joined tonight by Robert Whitman. He's a former FBI agent and founder of the agency's Rapid Deployment Art Crime Team. Robert, thanks so much for joining Top Story. You're probably the best guy to talk to tonight, besides the guys who pulled this one off. So here's a look again outside of the Louvre and the crane that the thieves used to get in. Put us in the mind of the criminal and walk us through their process.
Well, they're going to try to figure out the best way to get into the museum through that window. They knew it was there. They had it planned out to go up through there, and they knew they could break that window. Now, there was nothing wrong with the security. The security went off. The alarms went off. There were guards at the scene, but the guards were threatened by these robbers for using those arc cutters. So as a result, they backed off because human life is always most important here. You don't want anybody killed or maimed. Property's property, but human life's more important.
Yeah.
So they thought. Go ahead. They thought their way through it, and that's what they did.
Yeah, Robert, I wanted to ask you on that point you just made. We have video that shows the thieves actually breaking to the display cases, as you mentioned. And I guess people at home are going to ask you about that point, or want to know, how could they do this with no one stopping them? And I guess it's sort of like bank robberies these days. I mean, you don't really hear about bank robbers being shot anymore because protocols are a little bit different, right?
Well, the guards at the Louvre do not carry weapons. They're not carrying guns. But here's the situation with that. It's a Sunday morning, and you have to put yourself in that situation. It's a Sunday morning. It's 9:30. You see these guys coming in with these high-vis vests, which are, for construction people. And the immediate assumption by most of the people in the museum is that, hey, they're doing the work on the museum. They're authorized to be here, and they're probably fixing one of the cases or a couple of the cases. At that moment, nobody's assuming that these are robbers. But, that's how they pulled it off. It was by being audacious and brazen in broad daylight that people backed off.
Here's a look at what was stolen, right? It was a crown, necklaces, earrings. What are the chances that any of it will ever be recovered? Any success stories, or are they gone forever? And I have to ask, what did they do here? Do they actually sell those pieces? Will someone buy those pieces knowing they've been stolen, or do they just take off the diamonds and sell them and sort of sell it for parts?
I always say that the thieves who steal these types of materials, paintings, sculptures, these beautiful pieces of jewelry that are historic and have a lot of cultural heritage, they're better criminals than they are businessmen because they don't realize that they can't really do anything with this stuff. It's well known, it's famous, and trying to sell it's going to be a real problem for them. Now, the true art in an art heist, it isn't the stealing, Tom, it's the selling. And so what are they going to do with it? The only thing they can do it basically is try to monetize it by maybe taking a few pieces apart. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. If they wanted to just get diamonds or gold to sell on the market, they could go out and hit a jewelry store. They didn't have to go through the Louvre and create this worldwide, attention on themselves. You hit a nice jewelry store, you'll get good stuff, and you can sell those diamonds. This is a little bit different. Now, the problem is that if they destroy these things or for some reason they get rid of them because they're afraid of being caught, that's a true loss for society. But hopefully we can get these back. And if that's the case, I think it would be a great thing for the French people to be able to recover their historic artifacts.
Yeah, we hope so. I do want to ask you, where does this burglary sort of stack up in the history of heists? We have some of the famous ones here. In 1911, the Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre by a former employee. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston in 1990 is an infamous one. In 1994, the Scream was stolen from an Oslo museum. And earlier this year, precious gold artifacts stolen from a Dutch museum. So how does the Louvre heist we just saw compare?
I think it compares pretty well, right up there with these specific pieces. The value on the Scream and the value on the Gardner heist might be a little bit higher. In fact, the Gardner heist is the biggest property crime in U.S. history. So if you think about that for a second, when we talk about a one-off property crime, nothing's ever been bigger in U.S. history, and it's an art theft from a museum. So those pieces have never been recovered, even though there's a $10 million reward. out there for information to recover those artworks. They're still out there. The Netherlands case is really important as well. That was material from Romania, and those were the were gold objects from the Romanian royal family throughout from history. So that again, they've discovered or they've stolen cultural property. But if you notice about that heist, it was a lot of gold. And last month, September 17th, the Natural History Museum in Paris was also robbed. And a lot of the ways they did it was very similar to this heist today, yesterday in the Louvre. So in that heist at the History Museum, they stole golden nuggets worth 600,000 euros. And so again, it was gold. So right now, it seems that gold is the draw for these thieves to try to steal, because I think it's because the golden market is up to $4,000 an ounce.
All-time highs, 4,200. Yeah. All right. Robert, so great to have you here, man. We thank you for your expertise.
Hey, Tom, it's great to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah. New details emerging over what happened in the moments before. A 5-year-old girl fell overboard while on a Disney cruise earlier this summer. You may remember that. Now we're learning prosecutors were considering charging the mother with child neglect, but decided not to. Here's NBC's George Solis.
Shocking new details emerging in the case of a 5-year-old that earlier this summer plummeted from a Disney cruise ship and survived after her father jumped in after her. Tonight, Florida prosecutors saying despite a recommendation from authorities, criminal charges will not be filed in the case. A newly released police report from the Broward County Sheriff's Office detailing how the unidentified child's mother was taking pictures and pointed to an open porthole railing. The daughter climbed on and fell into international waters between the Bahamas and Florida. The report adding the mother initially did not believe that the victim had fallen into the water since she assumed a glass barrier was present and then screamed when she realized it. According to the investigators, a minute later, the child's father jumped overboard in an attempt to rescue his daughter. Passengers on board capturing the moment rescue boats arrived, minutes after the initial mayday call, pulling dad and daughter from the ocean. Investigators noting because the child was small, she did not trigger the man overboard sensors when she fell 49 feet, or roughly 4 stories below. In the report, one investigator saying, "I immediately saw that the window was open to the air and did not have a covering," going on to say, as a result, the child fell from the ship and into the water in an avoidable accident. Assistant State Attorney Melissa Kelly ultimately deciding not to pursue criminal charges, calling the conduct negligent and irresponsible, but says it does not rise to the egregious level of conduct necessary to establish criminal culpable negligence.
This is a case that could have gone either way. Criminal negligence is actually different from regular negligence. It actually requires a showing of recklessness. In other words, a conscious awareness of a risk and disregard of that same risk. That is why it is often difficult to decide if someone's regular carelessness is enough to be criminal.
According to the report, the child's mother telling authorities she felt like there should be coverings on the window, adding that Disney is responsible for what occurred.
The ultimate question will be whether the design or the placement of these portholes was negligent, whether it was foreseeable that someone could be hurt by where they were and how they looked.
NBC News has reached out to Disney for comment and has yet to hear back. Previously, the company telling NBC News it commended its crew members' exceptional skills and prompt actions, adding this incident highlights the effectiveness of our safety protocols.
According to the report from the Broward County Sheriff's Office, both the child and the father came down with a case of hypothermia after being rescued from the water. The father also sustaining spinal fractures, both said to be okay now. Tom?
All right, George Solis for us, wrapping it up there for us. George, we appreciate it. The troubling string of air scares around the world. A jet skidding off a runway in Hong Kong, a lithium battery, you see it there, igniting midair, forcing another plane to make an emergency landing. What we're learning about what's happening out there. Plus, the 2 Texas parents arrested, accused of leaving their 6-month-old baby alone for more than an hour. What police are now saying about where that child was found. And the major new legal pressure on Roblox, the gaming platform used by millions of kids. The new action being taken by Florida's Attorney General, the answers they are seeking. That's next. Back now with the investigation into a plane skidding off a runway, slamming into a vehicle and killing 2 before landing into a sea in Hong Kong. It's the latest in a string of aviation incidents. Here's Tom Costello.
From an onboard fire to a plane crash and shattered cockpit windscreen, a busy Monday for aviation investigators. In Hong Kong, an Emirates Air 747 cargo plane arriving from Dubai lost control after landing, crashing through a fence and striking a security vehicle before sliding into the sea. All 4 aircrew members rescued, but 2 people in the car were killed. Meanwhile, over China, fire and smoke poured from an overhead bin after Air China says a lithium-ion battery spontaneously ignited during a flight to Seoul. Flight attendants and passengers smothered the fire as the pilots made an emergency landing in Shanghai. No injuries, but underscoring the global risk posed by lithium-ion batteries and power banks overheating and catching fire. In the U.S., the FAA reports 62 incidents this year through September.
People just need to understand the risk associated with those, and in particular, power banks.
Investigators also looking into the shattered windshield at 36,000 feet on a United flight diverting to Salt Lake. Analysts say possibly due to a heating element in the glass. The pilot's arm cut and bloody. Also tonight, we're watching airport delays nationwide. Since the government shutdown, the FAA has reported an increase in controllers calling out sick as they work without pay. Tom?
All right, Tom Costello for us. Still to come tonight on Top Story, a federal appeals court giving President Trump the green light to send National Guard troops to Portland. What it could mean for the administration's immigration crackdown. Plus another dramatic jewelry heist, this one targeting a store in L.A. The burglars making off with about $500,000 in goods. We'll show you how they pulled it off. But first, Top Story's top moment in the heartwarming reunion between a U.S. Navy service member and his son. Jose Sanchez, a 10th grader from Miami, thought he was just doing a routine interview for his high school's TV news program. But he was actually in for a surprise 9 months in the making. Take a look.
Derecho, básicamente porque mi papá fue abogado, entonces, ¿Un abrazo?
This is U.S. service member David Sanchez, who is serving overseas. Sanchez was also able to surprise his daughter. We thank him for his service and his family as well. Stay with us. More news on the way. Back now with Top Story's newsfeed. We start with new developments in the disappearance of a Philadelphia woman. Police confirming 23-year-old Kata Scott's remains were discovered at an abandoned school on Saturday, 2 weeks after she went missing. The suspect, Keon King, now facing several new charges, including arson, evidence tampering, and reckless endangerment. Investigators allege King used a stolen car to move Scott's body before burning that vehicle. And an update on a story we've been following here on Top Story involving a man who appeared to fake his own death and fled the U.S. to try to avoid rape charges in Utah. Nicholas Rossi was just sentenced to no less than 5 years and up to life in prison. Investigators say Rossi used at least a dozen aliases over the years to evade being captured. He's due back in court next month to be sentenced on a second rape conviction. And a massive robbery at a jewelry shop in Los Angeles. Take a look at this. Burglars tunneling through the walls of the business next door to get at the store's safe. And then police say the thieves disabled the store's alarm system and cameras so they wouldn't be detected. The owners told NBC Los Angeles they estimate about $500,000 in jewelry and property were stolen. The investigation is still ongoing. And a federal appeals court ruling that President Trump can deploy National Guard troops in Portland against the state's wishes. In the 2-1 ruling, the panel of judges writing, it is likely the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority. Today's ruling pauses a lower court's order that barred the deployment of troops to that city. Okay. In Illinois, jury selection is starting in the trial of Sean Grayson, the former sheriff's deputy accused of murdering Sonya Massey in her home last summer. Grayson claiming he was acting in self-defense. Today, the fury outside the courthouse demanding accountability. Maggie Vespa reports.
On day one of jury selection in former Deputy Sean Grayson's first-degree murder trial, anger outside this Illinois courthouse.
I watched the video and I feel like, like the rest of the world feel like it was unjustified.
Why would it hurt you? You called us.
Last summer, 36-year-old Sonya Massey called 911 about a possible prowler, according to the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. Body cameras captured Deputy Sean Grayson responding to her home. The mother of two, whose family said she struggled with mental health issues, then picked up a pot of boiling water.
I'll shoot you in it. You better I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face. Okay, I'm sorry. Drop the pot! Drop the pot! Drop the
Grayson was fired and pleaded not guilty, saying in court documents he feared for his life. Personnel records later showed he had a history of disciplinary issues at previous police jobs. Grayson faces the possibility of life in prison, his attorney declining to comment to NBC News. The case garnering national attention. The judge moving proceedings to another county. Both sides today grilling potential jurors about their opinions on this video and law enforcement. Legal experts say self-defense may be a tough sell.
When it comes to law enforcement, they are trained in how to react in certain circumstances. They're taught de-escalation measures and that deadly force is the last course of action to take.
All right, with that, Maggie Vespa joins us live from Chicago. So, Maggie, late today, we learned today jury selection wrapped up. Walk us through what's next, and you have some new reporting on what the jury will look like?
Yeah, Tom, that's right. So late today, all 12 jurors plus 3 alternates were chosen. And among that group, we're told it's 10 women, 5 men. And our producer in court also noting this appears, for what it's worth, to be a predominantly white jury with only one juror, she said, who appears to be black. As far as the timeline of this case is concerned, both attorneys said that they wanted tomorrow to argue several motions in front of the judge they didn't want the jurors to hear. So the judge is setting aside all of tomorrow for that and telling the jury to be back on Wednesday when we expect opening statements. Tom.
Okay, Maggie Vespa for us tonight. Maggie, we thank you. Now to an update on a story we've been following for the past year. Roblox, the popular gaming app among kids, it's increasingly coming under fire, accused of exposing children to online predators. Tonight, Stephanie Gosk with Florida's Attorney General taking serious action against it.
Tonight, the children's gaming app Roblox put on notice by Florida's Attorney General.
Companies like Roblox have become breeding grounds for predators to get to and have access to our kids.
The AG announcing it will issue subpoenas to the company as part of a criminal investigation.
We've arrested over 1,000 child predators just this year, and many of these investigations lead right back to Roblox.
Among them, 17-year-old Christian Scriven, who pleaded not guilty to adult charges for allegedly convincing children as young as 8 years old to share sexually explicit images. On Roblox, users can chat with each other while they create and play games. According to the Florida's AG, predators often pose as children, sometimes luring victims by paying them with the in-game currency called Robux. The company says it is cooperating with the Florida investigation, adding that it prohibits the sharing of images and video, and it has advanced safety systems to help protect users and remove bad actors.
You sent a message and said, well, if I send you like $5 in the digital currency Robux, can you send me like just a selfie of yourself?
Steve, who asked that we not use his last name, says his 13-year-old son was targeted by a predator on Roblox.
And it got progressively worse and worse and worse from there. Before long, it was, well, I know where you live at because he found out our home address.
Steve is one of dozens of people around the country who have filed lawsuits against Roblox, accusing the company of not doing enough to protect children.
It is on these apps. They found like a haven for this kind of thing to happen because anyone can be anyone they want to be.
And kids can be easily fooled.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Stephanie Goss joins us live on Top Story. Stephanie, so for Roblox users in Florida, what happens?
So, I mean, this is an important, significant step by the AG because it means that they're pursuing a criminal investigation. But to be clear, there are no charges against Roblox. They're not accused of any crime tonight, Tom. You know, what's interesting here, and a point that Roblox made today in its statement, is that one of the things they're trying to do is develop a technology that allows them to establish a user's age, regardless of the user, which could prevent some of these incidents. Predators pretending to be kids, you know, kids not knowing how old the predator is. It is something that's happening not just on Roblox, but there are other social media platforms trying to do the same thing to try to limit, you know, exposure to potentially dangerous people.
You hope with the technology they can get there.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure they can. All right, Stephanie, we thank you for that. Now to those arrests of 2 parents on vacation in Florida charged with leaving their 6-month-old baby alone at the beach for nearly an hour. Our Priscilla Thompson spoke with the sheriff, who says the situation could have been so much worse.
This is a 6-month-old baby girl just after she was discovered on a Florida beach by a Good Samaritan. The sheriff's department says they discovered the baby had been left alone by her parents for nearly an hour.
Would you leave your 6-month-old in a car for an hour? No. Would you leave your 6-month-old at the house for an hour while you went to the store? No, you shouldn't.
Tonight, parents Brian and Sarah Wilkes have been arrested and charged with felony child neglect. Investigators say they went for a walk with their older children Friday, leaving their 6-month-old baby napping under a tent alone.
In the worst case that we could have had here was a kidnapping, and nobody would have known what would have happened for that.
Beachgoers told hotel staff, who called police. The sheriff's department says the parents told them,
"Oh, it was baby's nap time. We didn't want to disturb baby. We kind of lost track of time."
What do you make of that response?
Losing track of time doesn't negate the fact that you as a parent have the responsibility to take care of and to care for your child.
Sarah Wilkes, a healthcare executive, and her husband Brian have been released on bond. They did not respond to our request for comment.
All right, Priscilla Thompson joins us tonight from Houston. Priscilla, what penalties could these parents be facing for allegedly leaving their baby alone?
Yeah, Tom, investigators say that they could be looking at least a year in prison because this is a felony child neglect charge. Now, of course, there's a possibility that they could plead down to a misdemeanor, which would make those penalties a little bit less. So now, as for the children, they were taken into state custody when their parents were arrested. We were told that there were relatives who were coming to Florida to pick them up. And of course, the parents have since bonded out. Tom?
Okay, Priscilla Thompson for us. Priscilla, thank you. Still ahead tonight, a sign of hope for parents worried about their children and food allergies. The new study into what early steps can be taken to limit the chances of kids becoming allergic to peanuts. Plus, the record-setting feat in the Pacific Ocean, the 8,000-mile journey these two women went on and the cause they rode for. That's next. We're back now with the latest out of the Middle East, the fragile ceasefire in Gaza holding after Israel launched a wave of airstrikes, accusing Hamas of violating the agreement. And late today, the remains of another deceased hostage handed over to Israel. NBC's Matt Bradley has this report from the region.
Tonight, amid potential cracks in the Gaza ceasefire, President Trump with a warning to Hamas.
They're in violation of their agreement.
After he says Hamas broke his peace deal.
We have a peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. We made a deal with Hamas that, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated, and they know that.
The IDF also saying Hamas violated the ceasefire by attacking Israelis several times over the past 2 days, killing 2 Israeli soldiers and wounding 3 others. Israel then launched retaliatory airstrikes on 20 targets inside Gaza, which killed dozens, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. They say a strike hit this camp for displaced people. It's all lies. This is our ceasefire, as you can see, said this man, whose relative was killed in the strike. Still tonight, the ceasefire is holding. It comes as there are renewed concerns about whether Hamas will disarm, after video showed the group conducting public executions in Gaza. Plus, Israel saying Hamas has not returned 16 of the 28 bodies of slain hostages as required by the Trump deal. Among them, 22-year-old American-Israeli Omer Nutra from New York. The Israeli soldier was kidnapped on October 7th and died in captivity.
We're extremely worried. We feel that the ceasefire is fragile.
His parents, Rona and Ornan, are desperate for closure.
He's still our boy. He will always be our boy. And we need to give him a proper burial, a place where we can go and cry and mourn and start our healing process as well.
And tonight, Israel's military says it received yet another body from Hamas. It's conducting forensic testing to determine whether this body also belongs to one of the slain hostages. Tom?
Matt Bradley for us from Israel tonight. Matt, we thank you. Now to Top Stories Global Watch. We start in Bolivia, electing its first conservative leader in decades. Rodrigo Paz, a centrist senator, is set to become the country's next president. It marks a major political change there after almost 20 years of rule by the Movement Towards Socialism party. Paz will step into office during Bolivia's worst economic crisis in a generation. He's set to take office next month. 2 British women are now the first female crew to row nonstop unaided across the Pacific Ocean. Jess Rowe, that's really her name, and Miriam Payne spent almost half a year at sea traveling over 8,000 miles from Peru to Australia. They also raised more than $100,000 for charity. The pair slept in 2-hour intervals, trading off rowing shifts and overcoming equipment failures to complete the journey. Wow. And millions of people in India celebrating Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights. Colorful fireworks lighting up the night sky as people across the country mark the annual celebration. Families traditionally spend the day offering prayers at home before gathering to share sweets, set off fireworks, and exchange gifts. Okay, next tonight, top stories, health check, and some positive news when it comes to dangerous food allergies and children. A new study in the medical journal Pediatrics showing a major decrease in the amount of children with food allergies over the last decade. It's all attributed to landmark research that encouraged parents to introduce small amounts of foods like peanuts to infants instead of avoiding them entirely. This new study found that peanut allergies in children under 3 dropped by 43%, almost half, since these exposure guidelines were first put into place. I want to bring in Dr. Puriva Parikh, an allergist and immunologist with NYU Langone Health. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us. The numbers are staggering, right? I want to put the numbers here for our viewers. A 36% drop in children with food allergies that impacts roughly 60,000 kids. Can you tell us more about this study and the use of this kind of treatment for children when it comes to food allergies? Because it might scare some parents.
Right. So, there was this huge study done over a decade ago that found that by introducing not just peanuts, but potentially other of the high-risk allergens early, meaning between 4 to 6 months, it would prevent the development of these peanut allergies. And they modeled this after other countries that introduced peanuts early, and they found that that was the case. Compared to placebo, the kids that got the peanuts early were much less likely to develop the food allergy. So that's now our current recommendation, that children should be introduced not just peanuts, but the other high-risk allergens as well.
Are there still risks, though, when it comes to introducing these allergens to kids?
Right. So there's 2 caveats in which you would not do it immediately without consulting an allergist, immunologist. That's if the child has already been diagnosed with an egg allergy or if they have very severe eczema, because believe it or not, those are 2 risk factors for severe allergy. But for most other kids, if they don't have those exceptions, we actually encourage that early introduction, as early as 4 months.
Yeah. How does it happen that people are allergic to something as a child? Like, I was very allergic to shrimp growing up. Not allergic at all anymore. How does that happen? What happens to your is it your immune system or what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So an allergy is actually an overreaction of your immune system to something it shouldn't be reacting to. And so when you're a child, your immune system is still developing. That's why it's so important, especially in those early days, to introduce things early, because that could prevent the immune system, keep it tolerant of it. But some people are lucky is that as they grow, their immune system then may on its own become tolerant, but doesn't happen for everyone. And now we're seeing people are still carrying food allergies into adulthood, depending on which food they're allergic to.
Do you see a world where food allergies are eradicated?
That would be amazing to see. Already we're seeing so much promise in just 10 years of these guidelines being out. If we are able to move that way, that would save lives, because we still see food allergies take deaths on a daily basis around the world. So that would be huge, especially because we've seen a rise in food allergies over the last 2 decades. So if we could reverse that, it would be huge. And
what is your body telling you when, I knew you were explaining as your immune system overreacting, but what is your body telling you when you are allergic to a food?
Right. So normally our body wants to keep out things we don't want, like infections or cancer or what have you. But this is when your immune system has become hypersensitive to something and it sees a food, something it shouldn't be reacting to or combating against, as something foreign or something bad. And it triggers this cascade of reactions within your body, and they can be life-threatening.
No, they can be. Doctor, so great to have you here on the show, and good news in that study. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.